It's the story of the year, the day, whatever you want to call it. I've been watching football 40 years. I've never seen anything like it before. Antonio Brown apparently either gets cut or quits on the sideline, walks out with no shirt on, waves goodbye to the Jets fans during the game. Now, Doc, we're not going to speculate. Listen, we don't know what's going through Antonio's head or some of the things that may or may not have happened. But you want to take a look at this from like a football perspective and how these decisions are made. So give us your thoughts on the Antonio Brown situation.
Yeah, certainly it's too simplistic to say, oh, he's got CTE for sure. And look, that's a pathology diagnosis in any case. And we don't ever want to make light of CTE. But I really think this deserves some analysis. Look, credit Mike Silver for tweeting at me and saying, look, if there's controversy on his ankle, how did his ankle look as he, quote, pranced off the field? And I think this is all worth a discussion because it's so unprecedented. And I kind of want to share with everyone how I think it's unprecedented. And boy, potentially, look, I'm not defending Antonio Brown. I don't know what he's been going through, what's happening. On the surface value, you'd say Antonio Brown has got some issues, right? Where there's smoke, there's fire. And there's been this lawsuit, this accusation, the fake COVID cards, the burning his feet to the Oakland Raiders, the this, the that, just a lot of unusual behavior, no question about it. And Thomas, you and I talked about it last week and the week before that if not for Chris Godwin's injury, season ending, and Mike Evans' hamstring, if not for the need for Antonio Brown, given that Bruce Arians has said previously he's on a zero tolerance, zero strike policy, yet they forgave him for the COVID vaccine issue and let him back. That might have been out of necessity. Maybe it was Tom asking, who knows? But I think there's more to this story than perhaps Antonio Brown is just off his rocker. Now, there's a component maybe of that. And so let's kind of go through this. Look, it takes two to tango, right? And certainly the histrionics were unprecedented. But what happened isn't necessarily, we talked about it, Thomas, you reminded me of Vontae Davis quitting at halftime in Buffalo. Like, packed up his stuff at halftime and left. Yeah, and there wasn't the dramatic walk-off without the shirt throwing things into the stands, but you can argue it was just as dramatic. It just wasn't seen on TV film. And I think we all remember Mike Singletary and Vernon Davis, where he kicked him off the sideline, right? Can't win with him, can't have him.
10 minutes to go in the game. He had just gotten a personal foul penalty, and he came off, and I was reading about it. Davis said he was trying to avoid Singletary, but Singletary caught him, yelled at him, kicked him. I mean, and I remember, Doc, when that happened, at that point, that was shocking. I mean, you know what I mean? A coach throwing a player off the field and then gave the famous "can't win with him" speech. But as shocking as that was, in 40 years, I've never seen anything like the Antonio Brown walking off with no shirt and getting an Uber or a car.
No question. But the story this morning, the spin or the story, I don't know, that's being reported is that Antonio Brown was asked to go back into the game, and Antonio Brown said he couldn't, or his ankle was bothering him, or what have you. And then he was, quote, kicked off the sidelines, kicked off the team, cut on the spot, and then he disrobed and dramatically walked off the field. And I would say right now, I think the whole world is saying, Antonio Brown, you're off your rocker and you're the bad guy. But the question that I want to discuss from a football perspective only is, was he the guy caught throwing the second punch? What happened to lead up to it, right? The second guy always gets penalized, right? It's like, what are you doing hitting that guy and you're kicked out of the game and the whole deal? But what happened leading up to that? What was said, what was done on the field or otherwise on the sideline? So since we're medically based, let's go look at this. First of all, We know Antonio Brown had a significant ankle injury, and we at this site and at Sports Injury Central and on the podcast have been saying he's a long ways away from playing. He's a long ways away from playing, right, from that ankle injury in practice. And apparently this week he had another re-injury to the ankle and was iffy. And I have to say, if you look at game film, and we'll show you some now, there definitely is a case to say that he wasn't 100%. Okay, was he good enough to play? Well, he suited up, and we've always talked about return to play is the player has to sign off, the medical staff has to sign off, and the team, the head coach, GM, whoever needs to sign off. All three. Antonio Brown clearly suited up for the game, so he thought he could go, or at least do something to help the team. But let's look at his receptions in the first half and some of his plays here. So that one wasn't even fair. I mean, that was not even anything catchable. A short screen. There was a lot of wide receiver screens and short stuff. Here's his one completion downfield, and you can tell he favors the left ankle. He almost falls down when he tries to cut there. And you see it again here. This is his one downstream. He plants with the right side that's healthy. The left side he favors. Then another assortment of short wide receiver screens. They clearly were trying to get him the ball. They needed him, but it wasn't the typical Antonio Brown stuff. You can see there once again he's favoring his left ankle as he goes around. And now here's the prance off and what have you. But look closely at his left ankle. There's a little bit of a hitch on that side. Yeah, he runs 7 times faster than I do, but that's not a normal left ankle gait there. I'm not suggesting that I'm defending that everything Antonio Brown did was correct. But looking at his plays and looking at how he went off, he's not 100% on that ankle. That's all I can say. Now, look, before anyone says if he can run like that, he should be able to play. Look, there should not be controversy between a player and a head coach during a game like that. But if you look at the film of Cam Akers to the naked eye, and we could show it here too, he looks great. But if you look really closely, as we show it here, I look at that and he's favoring his right Achilles, especially on that one plant as he changes directions. Right there. That's not a solid step. But he looks great. But the Rams don't think he's ready to play yet. Right? So return to play and health is not binary, yes or no. It's a matter of degree. So I think it's fair to Antonio Brown to say that he was not 100% on his left ankle based on how he was being utilized and based on how he even ran off. Did he look athletic enough to be on the field? Well, he was on the field. So the truth is somewhere in the middle. So what happened? Look, I've been on the sidelines for almost 2 decades. I almost never, basically have never had a discussion with the head coach during a game. Because the head coach has got headsets on to the offense, to the defense, to other people. Everybody stays in their lane. We had communication where we made a medical decision. The head athletic trainer's job was to tell an assistant coach what that player's status was. That assistant coach would tell the head coach, the position coach, the OC, the DC, the special teams coach what that player's status was. Because there's so many different things going on the sideline, I don't think we ever huddled up at a timeout and said, "You sure so-and-so can't return to the game?" I mean, we said, they're in, they're out, or this is what they can do, this, and the team would go for it. It would go along with it. You don't have time. It's chaos on the sideline. I don't know what happened on the Bucs sideline. I don't know if there was miscommunication or where the medical staff said he's able to return, but somehow it doesn't get communicated that Antonio Brown felt like he wasn't ready to go or felt like he couldn't do it anymore. I don't know. But what I also find as unusual as it is that we have that unbelievable walk-off, take off the jersey, throwing stuff, and jumping jacks and prancing off and making a spectacle of it. I've also never heard of a player getting fired on the sidelines. Even Vernon Davis was kicked off the sidelines by Mike Singletary. He wasn't cut by Mike Singletary on the sidelines. And if it's true that Antonio Brown was cut on the sideline, that's as quietly dramatic as the prance off, right? I mean, I don't know that anyone's ever been cut on the sideline. Emotions get the better part of you. People get hot. We've seen a couple fights among teammates in the last week or two. I get all of that, but there's more to be understood here. And it's easy to say Antonio Brown's in the wrong. Just look at the history, right? It's easy. But something must have happened in the miscommunication on the sideline. I mean, either the coach, right, was told he's fine and he refuses to come back in the game, and the coach is hot about it and says, "You're out of here," and Antonio Brown doesn't back down and reacts. I don't know.
But in terms of the thing you mentioned that I thought too is Bruce Arians' first thing he said when he got up to the podium was he's off the team. When doesn't the general manager have to be involved with you know what I'm saying? Like it's like you said, Doc. It's hard to fire an NFL player mid-game because head coaches don't always have just the final say on that stuff.
No question. You know, maybe Bruce Arians has that control, or he was confident enough, but he obviously was hot too, right? He led off with that, right?
Yeah.
And my question, and it's just a question, maybe Antonio Brown did some things on the sideline that warranted his being cut, and Bruce Arians hasn't aired the dirty laundry and he's 100% right. Or maybe there was some miscommunication about Antonio Brown saying, screw that, I'm not playing anymore, and Bruce Arians says, you're out of here. But what Antonio Brown meant was, my ankle isn't right. Look, could he have gone back in? Probably. Was he 100%? No. That's still, where's the truth on that? But the miscommunication to have it happen on the sideline so dramatically. Now, is Antonio Brown a little bit fueling the fire, or a lot, in terms of the drama of, well, if I'm cut or you're kicking me off, I'm walking off and doing this, as opposed to just, yeah, no question. He was, quote, caught throwing the second punch and he's the bad guy, right? Or, you know, he didn't throw a punch, but you get what I'm saying. He's the retaliator, escalator. But if he would have stayed quiet and, you know, either walked off quietly or stayed off or been escorted off, I think people would be saying, Bruce Arians, how do you cut him on the sideline? Yeah. Right? So I think there's more to this story, and I get Antonio Brown isn't going to get the benefit of the doubt from anybody. But all I'm saying is it takes two to tango. There's more to this story. You haven't heard of it before. Neither have I on a sideline to have that kind of fireworks. But what it tells me, the truth is usually somewhere in the middle. I think Bruce Arians probably was fed up with Antonio Brown. You know, he probably was up to here. It probably is true that he only let him back because they needed him. And then, okay, we need you. We're getting beat by the Jets. I want you to go back in. And the word gets back to him, I'm not going back in. And Arians says, well, then that's it. We're done with you because I've already given you all these second and third chances. And then Antonio Brown adds to the whole thing. Maybe that's where the truth is. I think he was on thin ice to begin with, and no one's going to feel bad for Antonio Brown because of everything that's happened. But I hope it's not just because he's just mentally off his rocker or there's anything else. Clearly there's issues, and he's a proud man, and it escalates, and here come the tweets and the Instagram and the rap videos. But medically, his ankle was not 100%. Who's in the right, who's in the wrong? And, you know, arguably he walked away from some bonus money up to $1 million, right? But I will defend him on this. It did not look like his ankle was 100%. Was he good enough to be able to keep playing? That's a different question. But his ankle was not 100%. That part, all right, by video, well, I think.
And I'm sure, Doc, more will come out on this in the next couple of days. You know, a lot of people fascinated on what's going to happen, but I'm sure you'll start hearing more bits and pieces of the story, and I agree with you. I do think that somewhere's in there, the ankle is part of this, right? Either he didn't want to play or whatever, but I'm sure we'll find out more. But it was interesting to get your analysis on what is certainly one of the top stories of the NFL season.